I saw Meze Mike's doner kebab recipe and I wanted to give it a try. I use 2 large yellow onions here, but for the kebabs we'll roughly chop up 1 3/4. Chop the other quarter of the onion into small diced pieces for our salata later. Now we'll put the roughly chopped onion in a food processor and set that on the puree mode until it's nice and pasty. This is the consistency you're looking for. Once that's looking good, set it aside. Now in a large mixing bowl, we'll put 2 cups of Greek yogurt, or lubbin if you have it. Toss in 2 pounds of Midamar's 80/20 ground beef, or you could use 1 pound of beef and 1 pound of lamb instead. Pour in 4 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of red pepper flakes, 3 tablespoons of oregano, 3 tablespoons of paprika, 3 tablespoons of cumin, our pureed onions, and we'll finish it with 1.5 tablespoons of salt and pepper. We'll start mashing it now until we get a nice combined mixture. You'll want to use your hand like a spatula and round the sides of the bowl to make sure the ingredients are all mixed together correctly. After that, we'll set it aside for 2 seconds while we prep a sheet of parchment paper and set it on a cutting board. I started by laying out 1 or 2 handfuls of meat at a time and carefully pressed it out as thin as I could. I'd say mine was around 1/16 of an inch thick. You also want to make sure your edges are straight and that the meat doesn't go right up to the long edge of the parchment paper. That'll give you a little room in case the meat squishes out a little bit on either end. After that, we'll tightly roll it up and place it in a deep baking sheet and repeat the process until we run out of meat. Bake this for 20 minutes at 400 degrees. In the meantime, we'll make a quick Lebanese style salad, aka salata. Start with 1 medium cucumber. All we're going to do is chop off the ends, chop it into slices, chop those into strips, then we'll rotate it and chop it one last time so we have tiny little bits. Now we'll dice up a tomato in almost the same way, chop off the stem, chop it into slices. I use a serrated blade for this because I think it's easier to cut through the skin, but when cutting the flesh I find a regular knife works just fine. Slice the tomato into strips just like we did with the cucumber. Rotate it, then we'll chop those into diced pieces and toss it in with the cucumber. The other 2 tomatoes, we'll slice the ends off, but this time we're going to cut those tomatoes in half. Now we'll rotate it and then slice it. We'll use these as a topping for our kebab sandwich later. Oh look, it's the onion from earlier! As I said, we'll chop up 1/4 of this onion very fine. My family prefers salata to be light on onions, but if you like onion, you could use half of this onion instead or more to your tastes. Since we're slicing up veggies, now's a good time to thinly slice up a large red onion and set that aside. We'll use that as a topping for later. Lastly, we'll whip up the salata by combining our diced veggies with 10 ounces of romaine lettuce. Now we'll season it with 2 or 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 or 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, salt and pepper to taste, or about 1/4 teaspoon each. Give that a good mix-in and taste to see if it needs more lemon. To finish it, we'll add in 1 tablespoon of dried and ground mint, mix it up one more time, then cover and refrigerate it for now. At about this time, the doner should be done. We'll come and drain out the fat, but make sure to keep a little bit in the pan though. This will help keep the juices from burning to the sides. Toss that back in the oven and bake for 15 more minutes. While that cooks, we'll make our garlic sauce, aka toom, for our sandwiches. Place 1 cup of peeled garlic into a food processor along with about 2 teaspoons of salt. Now we'll pulse that several times for a few seconds each time. Place the top back on, but this time remove the little cylinder piece and stream in about 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Stop the processor, scrape down the sides one more time, then pop the top back on and repeat the process. Now we'll alternate with 3 cups of canola oil and half a cup of lemon juice while our processor is on puree mode. Every now and then stop and scrape down the sides to make sure everything is getting mixed properly and to give your processor a little break. Once all the liquids are mixed in, check the sauce. You're looking for almost the consistency of mayonnaise. Also, fair warning, this stuff is super strong on its own, but when you put it on anything, it's way more mild. Now that the toom is done, we'll remove the doner from the oven and unroll it from the parchment paper, then we'll cover it with some lemon juice. I probably used 1/4 cup or so, but I love lemon. If you don't like lemon as much, you could use maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons instead. Toss that back in the oven and bake it until it's a little more crispy. This took me about 7 minutes. Serve it up with pita bread, the tomato slices, French fries, the red onions, the toom, and the salata. I like to make mine by spreading the toom first, adding the salata, some onions and tomatoes, then I finish it with the doner and fries. And that's it! Hit it with a little fresh lemon juice and you're ready to eat! We hope you enjoy this recipe as much as we did, and we'll see you next week with another awesome halal recipe.